Criticism is mounting against a multi-million-dollar Super-waka to be built on Auckland's waterfront. But are they only unhappy because the government's putting in $2 million of taxpayer money to pay for it? For more on this, let's speak with our political editor, Duncan Garner. Good morning, Duncan.
G'day, Rachel.
Ngati Whatua are pushing for this waka, Duncan. Can they afford to do it without government help?
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, I've had a quick look at their balance sheet overnight, what they own, what they don't own. And they're worth about $260 million. They were worth $30 million back in the late 90s. And they've grown out their business arm. Effectively, they've got a business arm. They own all sorts of things. Let me tell you, they own businesses. Now, they own a marina. They've got housing. They've got student housing, retirement villages, health businesses, and they own quite a lot of sort of top-class land around Auckland as well. So this is not a poor iwi, if you like. Yes, many of their people do live in poverty, but as a business arm, they're worth about $260 million. Now, as a balance sheet, you think they could pick up that waka quite easily.
OK, Bill English said there'd be no penny pinching, though, when it came to the World Cup. And if you look at this $2 million waka, I guess he meant what he said, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. One of the problems with English is he said this phrase a couple of weeks ago: we can't afford to have the nice to haves. Now, if you want to take that right down to its nth degree, you'd close Te Papa, you'd close all the publicly funded art galleries, you wouldn't have the World Cup. And I think the real mistake that the government made around this launch of this waka was that they lost control of it. They allowed people like Rodney Hyde and co to get up there, play the race card and whip up, in a dog whistle type approach to the public. Had the government announced this properly, held a press conference where they were first to say something rather than the media and rather than Rodney Hyde, then they may have been able to control it. Another big mistake, of course, is that they've effectively only asked Ngati Whatua for $100 grand. They'll put in $2 million. Had it been a 50-50 split from the iwi and the government, it may have been more justified, if you like.
Great fodder, though, for the opposition parties, though, I imagine, Duncan. I think it was Shane Jones who said it was a panic-stricken stunt from the leader of a plastic party. I've also heard it called a tapa-waka. They're going to dine out on this, aren't they?
Oh, they certainly are. I mean, Shane Jones woke up from a few months' slumber yesterday like a big bear in hibernation. And, I mean, he's good at this stuff, Jones. I mean, he's got a great turn of phrase, highly intelligent, but he can also connect with ordinary people. And, I mean, the tapa-waka line, yeah, that got a few laughs. And you remember Jones is fighting Peter Sharples in that Tamaki Makaurau Auckland seat. Now, the biggest iwi in Tamaki Makaurau is Ngati Whatua. So, it looks a bit cosy, doesn't it, for Peter Sharples, in a sense that he's got the biggest iwi on side, given them this sort of backhander and deal, and it looks quite good. But, I mean, you also got to say is, why can't we celebrate sort of a bicultural New Zealand during the World Cup? Why shouldn't there be a waka there? And you have to criticise the government's handling of it. Not the outcome will probably be quite good. I mean, I think people will probably go to this waka, and it could be quite, an event and quite a place to visit. But, why have they managed to stuff this up just in the process of launching it and announcing it? We should be able to celebrate something like this, but once again, if you let politicians anywhere near this type of event, goes tits up.
OK, let's talk about the Labour leadership now. Selwyn Pallett says Labour's going to lose the election regardless of who's in charge. He says, quote, with Gough at the helm, it would be a devastating result. That's pretty harsh from Pallett, isn't it? He historically has been something of an ally for Labour.
Oh, most certainly. Behind the scenes, he's the guy that has been pushing Labour into some of its new economic policy direction, pushing for changes in the Reserve Bank around monetary policy, pushing for that banking inquiry that Labour held a couple of years ago. So he's been almost an unofficial economic advisor to the party. Now, I rang Pallett yesterday, and his comments were even stronger than what you just quoted from his column there, Rach. He said, look, I've said my bit, but Labour is now completely dysfunctional and it has to put Phil to bed. Now, the criticism is tough, and it's even more damaging because, as you say, it's come from within the party. It's easy for people who don't vote Labour or who aren't aligned to Labour to say Phil Gough's no good, and you've almost got to start feeling for Gough here, start feeling a bit of sympathy for him because everyone is lining him up. Now, this criticism from Pallett will really hurt. I talked to Gough about this yesterday, and every time I asked him a question about it, he would look at another journalist hoping that they may sort of save him a bit and throw a question, but no one did, thank goodness, and we managed to keep the exchange going. But, I mean, it's getting pretty dire for Phil Gough now, isn't it? Absolutely.
So Pallett says there needs to be strong opposition, and he doesn't think Gough can do it, but it's pretty unlikely we're going to see a change of leadership, though, before the election, are we?
No, that's right. I mean, I've been around the front bench again yesterday. I mean, I think they're getting sick of us calling, to be honest. But I went around them yesterday and they said, look, yes, this is unhelpful and it hurts, but we're going to stick with Phil Goff to the election. And the closer it gets to the election, remember the election's in November, the harder it is to roll Phil Goff. If they wanted to do it, they probably should have done it by now. No one wants it. As I said, I think we spoke about this last week on the programme, Rachel, that they want Phil Goff to take the bullet in 2011, and he's going to have to just stumble on to the election. No one wants it. I mean, if they wanted to find a candidate and put some numbers up and roll Goff, I think they could probably do that now, but I think they've decided, I know they've decided they don't want to do that.
All right, Louisa Walsh, she'll step in now that Darren Hughes has resigned from Parliament. She was 6th on the list, but it seems that she was Labour's first choice. How does that work?
Well, it works because you jump the queue, effectively. You know, all those people that were there, Judith Tizard, Mark Burton, Dave Hediorda and Martin Gallagher from Hamilton, they've all been MPs before, reasonably undistinguished, if you like. Judith Tizard had her say over the last few days she feels heavily bullied. I mean, it was her constitutional right to come back to Parliament. I mean, they advertised to the New Zealand public that Judith Tizard was here, Burton was here, Hediorda was here and Gallagher was here. And what they've done is these people don't have a future in Parliament in the Labour Party anymore, so they wanted to jump to Louisa Wall because Louisa Wall has been selected as the Manurewa candidate for the Labour Party. That's a Labour seat. They want to get her on into Parliament to give her the chance to start campaigning early, to use taxpayer allowances and all sorts of things to get her in the fold so she can go back to Manurewa in November and say, hey, I'm already an MP, vote for me. So it's quite a strong position.